Hello, this is Taylor Elwood here, and today I am going to be going over how to set up keyword ads on Amazon. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at two different markets. We're going to look at the US market and we're going to look at the UK market. And the reason we're going to do that is because I also want to show you the differences between the international markets and the US market. Now, one thing I want you to note, and I'm going to just click on here, is that you actually can have multiple accounts. You can have an account for France, Germany, Italy, Spain, United Kingdom, and then of course you have the US account for ads. Um, the one thing I'm going to note is that in general, my experience is that the international ads are generally not as successful for me as the US ads. It doesn't mean there isn't some success. But like as you can see here, I have two UK ads. I had about four more and I shut those off because they were doing okay, but they weren't bringing in, they'd gotten to the point where they weren't really bringing in any money. So you want to be aware of that because when you're doing ads, you always want to make sure that those ads are going to that those ads are going to actually be producing results. I have these two still running right now. They're still somewhat profitable, but I'm definitely leaning towards shutting them off. And again, I've just noticed that with foreign ads, even like with the English speaking countries like Canada or Australia or the UK, they typically are a bit harder than the US ads. And I think there's a couple reasons for that, which we're going to go into here when we create an ad. So let's actually go ahead and do that. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and for the UK, we're going to go ahead and click Create Campaign. And when we create the campaign, what's going to happen here is you're going to see a list of, well, let's just wait for it to load up here. Here we go. It's going to say choose your campaign type. Now, for international ads right now, you can only do sponsored products. So we're going to go ahead and click on continue. It's taking its time. So now we need to come up with a campaign name. I always recommend coming up with the name of the book and a date, and in this case, keywords. That's the kind of ad we're going to be doing, is a keyword ad. I'm going to show you a different type of ad next week that you can do. But this time I want to do keyword. What I like to do is I like to go down here before I even before I even name the ad, and then go ahead and scroll down here and take a look. Now, what's interesting here, and this must be a recent change, they're showing like basically the product or the page for all of the ads. But in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go down here and we're going to pick one that we want to go ahead and run. Keep in mind that you can do paperback or ebook. Right now, what we're seeing are the ebook ads. But if we go down here, we could do like, let's scroll down here. So this is definitely a paperback ad in this case, or like this one here. So you can do paperbacks as well. And if you don't see your list of books in here, you could type in Walking with Spirits, which is one of mine in this case. And it's only going to show you your books, by the way, just so I'm very clear on that. And in this case, it's going to show us any relevant ads right here that are related to that one. For the purposes of this, let's go ahead and create a paperback ad with Walking with Magical Entities. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this one. You could add more products if you wanted to. In fact, just for the sake of fun, we could go ahead and do this. What that lets us, but you can only do that in the international markets. You can't do it in the U.S. So as you can see, there are going to be some differences here that you're going to notice. So okay, we've picked this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to call this I'm going to change this name to Walk with Spirits Series, and then 1027. And that way I know the date and I know the series. I could also add in PB for paperback. And our daily budget, we're just going to put in 100. Now you might say, oh my gosh, I don't want it to use 100. You really don't need to worry about that. Now you can do auto ads or manual target. We're going to do manual targeting. The reason why is because with manual targeting, we're going to get better results than we would if we went with auto ads. You can do auto ads and they can be successful, but you're basically relying upon Amazon's AI to figure things out, and that can take some time and get expensive. You have campaign bidding strategies where you have dynamic bids down only, where they'll lower the bid in real time when your ad might be less likely to convert to a sale. Dynamic bids up and down, where they'll raise the bid, and then fixed bids, where they'll use the exact bid and any manual adjustments and won't change your bids on likelihood of sales. Different people are going to have different takes on this. I typically use dynamic bids down only. It seems to work, so I'm not too stressed. One other thing you can do is you can adjust your bid strategy. So let's say if you wanted to add a percentage here, then what would happen is if someone clicked at the top of search or on a product page, the price is going to be up a little bit. I generally don't change these. I usually don't set them. I have set them on occasion. I don't find that they work one way or another. In particular, I would say that if you've had an ad running for a while and you find maybe it's not performing as well as you'd like, you could then go into here and make changes to that ad if you wanted to, just to see what would happen. We're going to leave the ad group name as ad group 1. And then what we're going to do is we could do either keyword targeting or product targeting. If we do product targeting, we would have the option of doing it by categories or individual products. In this case, we're going to go ahead and do keyword targeting instead. I am going to cover product targeting and category ads in a future one. Now here, you're going to see a bunch of keywords that Amazon puts in. I don't recommend using those. Instead, I always recommend entering list. I typically uncheck broad and exact and instead focus on phrase. I find that my best ad results are with phrases because of how people search. All right, so now we're going to go here, and I'm going to just expand this Excel sheet, and we are going to go over to the left here. Just have to kind of watch things. Let me move this over here. And we're going to go to magic keywords. I'm just going to move this back down here. And what you're going to see here are a whole bunch of keywords. Now, if I go through here and I have keywords of around 268 keywords. If we go down a little further, I also have some German keywords. I do find that, depending on the market, it can be useful to, look at in an international market and throw in some keywords from that market instead, because your book might be more likely to convert. We're going to go ahead and we're going to copy this, and we're going to go back into here. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste these into here. Now, to add them over onto here, we'd click Add Keywords. Before we do that, I recommend going and clicking on here where it says Suggested Bid and go to Custom Bid. And in this case, we're going to set it to £30. And then we're going to click on Add Keywords. When I do that, it tells you if all the keywords were added successfully. And as you can see here, there are this is a fairly reasonable range as far as the bid goes. Now, there are strategies where you can bid high, where you might go in at like 60 cents. And you can certainly do that if you want to. I have found that sometimes that can be a little cost prohibitive at the beginning. And if you don't have a huge budget for ads, you want to be very careful about how much you're spending, because you want to be making money. I typically like to go in between 30 and 45. I will sometimes go in at 60. And keep in mind that it depends on the market that you're going for. In this case, I'm dealing with a specific market that I know is this low. But if I were to do like zombie apocalypse fiction, I would probably be shooting for between 60 and 75 cents a bid. And as you can imagine, this can get expensive. The thing you also want to keep in mind is that, like, when you're doing when you're doing your ads, you want to keep in mind that, like, if you're doing your ads um, for ebooks or for paperback, um, you might get different results. Like, for one thing, for your paperback, you're probably not going to make as much money with the ads because you're charging a lower price. However, you might make more sales that could overcome that. With paperback, on the other hand, you are making more money per sale. So you want to keep that in mind. I do both ebook and paperback ads, and I think it's a good practice to do that, because then you have a good idea as to, like, what is working or not working. So we have all this in here, and we can always edit and change these later. In fact, I'll show you that in just a few minutes. For right now, we have another option, which is negative keyword targeting. If you know there are specific words that don't work, you could enter this in here, and so that basically removes people that are searching for those things from finding your ad or seeing your ad. The advantage of that is then you're not losing money on it. In my opinion, though, it does take a while to figure that out, and you have to really be on top of of the reports and everything else with ads. I'll admit that I'm probably not that meticulous. Um, I still manage to, get a fair amount found, but I think it comes down to, like, what is actually going to work for you and how much time and effort you really want to put into that. So just keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and click. I'm not going to click done on this because we're not done with this video. We're going to click launch campaign. And so what'll happen then, this campaign is going to get launched. Now it's taking its time, but there we go. So now here we go. It's been set up, and we're going to go ahead and click go to campaign manager. I just want to note that in general with the products, when I do this, I normally just choose one product. I decided today, though, as a test, to go ahead and choose both books in the series because I want to see what happens. One thing you're going to find with Amazon ads, and really with any kind of ad, is that you do want to be testing regularly your ads and seeing, like, what's working and what isn't working, because that is going to determine what your overall strategy is going to be. We're going to click go to campaign manager now and go over to the ads. And when we do, you're going to see that we should have that ad in there now. And here it's already delivering, which is nice. I mean, with Facebook, it typically takes a little while, but with these ones, they don't. Now, what I'm going to show you here, I just want to show you a couple of details on here. We're going to go ahead and move me over to here for the moment. On here, we have our ad groups, we have placements, negative keywords, campaign settings, and history. We could, if we wanted to, we could create another ad group. I'm not going to do that. We could also go in here and modify the placements. We could modify the negative keywords, actually add one. So as you're running the ad, and if you're keeping meticulous track of your keywords, then you could start adding those keywords in. So if, like, you had a keyword that wasn't working, then you could add that in as the negative keyword. If you're going to do that, I do recommend keeping a spreadsheet. I mean, that's really what I've been doing with my keywords. Again, I take my time in terms of negative keywords, because I do find that depending on the book, some keywords that would be negative for some books are not negative for others, and it's something to keep in mind. Here's your campaign settings. You can change these if you want to, so keep that in mind. And then if we go here, this is going to be the history of the ad, but in this case, it's really not going to have a history because it's just been created. There's not enough time. But let's go back here to ad groups. And what we're going to do, I just want to show you one other thing. If we go into here, what's going to happen is it's going to show us the keywords for the ad. And what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to modify the bid on those ads if that's what we want to do. So, for example, we go into here and we have ads, we have targeting, negative targeting, search terms, ad group settings. We can see search terms that people are using. That's useful. And I do recommend checking those things out with your ad. But in this case, we're going to go down to targeting. And what this is going to do is as we can see here, if we wanted to, we could select all of these. We can add keywords if we want to. But what we could do is we could click adjust bid. And then what we could do is we could change the amount. So that's something to keep in mind, that maybe like you set up an ad and you're like, I should have put more on there or less. That would be something that you could do here. We're not going to right now, but I just wanted to show you that. So what I'm probably going to end up doing here is creating another ebook ad just for the sake of seeing what happens with that in comparison to this, because again, it's a good thing for testing. Before I do that though, I want to go over here to the US version of Amazon ads. So here's my Amazon ads for the US. And in this case, I do have some paperback, and I do have some that are the ebook. One thing I want to note with the ebook versus the paperback is like you have to know your audience. So some of your audience is going to be if you know that your audience likes paperbacks, for example, you're going to want to advertise to them. Some people will say only do ebooks, don't advertise to the paperbacks, and I disagree with that, because sometimes you do want to advertise to the paperbacks. Now let's go ahead and take a look at creating an ad in the US version, because there are differences here in comparison to the international market. And there's a reason why I actually prefer ads in here as opposed to the international market for this reason. So we have sponsored products and lock screen ads. I don't create lock screen ads. They're notoriously, from what I can tell, and just from my own experience and from what I've read, they tend to only show up on Kindle e-readers or Fire tablets, and they tend not to be looked at too much. Because I mean, really, honestly, people just want to read. The last thing you want to see is a lock screen ad. And it's kind of one of those cases, I think, where like with Amazon, like when you go on Amazon to buy stuff, you expect that. But when you're going to your Kindle, you don't expect to read. You don't expect an ad on your Kindle. You just want to be able to read. Now, you still can buy stuff from Kindle, but it's the principle of it is that it works against, I think, in this case, what they're trying to do. Oh, it looks like they're again doing the same thing here. So this is interesting to me because we're seeing a little bit of a difference here today. They're saying out of stock. I imagine that they're in the process of updating something here, so we'll see. In this case, though, we're going to go ahead and create another ad. And again, we can do a paperback ad or we can do an ebook ad. It's up to you. In this case, I think what we're going to do is we are going to create a paperback ad. Now, the one thing to note is that you can only choose one product this time around, so that's something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and we'll do How to Troubleshoot Your Magic. We're going to make it a paperback one. Actually, let's see here. And here's something where it shows you like what the price is at for an ad, so you want to keep that in mind too. Let's do Magic by Design. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and do this one. We're going to do a keyword ad for this one. And as you can see, we've added the maximum numbers. So that's one option that's different from the international as opposed to the US side of things. So we're going to go ahead and Magic by Design 1027 PB. Okay. Again, we're going to go ahead and set this to $100. We're going to do manual targeting because we're doing keywords again. And in this case, we have another option here that we don't have with the international, and it's custom ad text. Instead of doing a standard ad where we choose the option to advertise the product without custom text, we can actually choose to do custom text. I recommend being careful with this one. You definitely can do it with both fiction and nonfiction. I think that the fiction ads actually work better without it, because you have to come up with some kind of clever line that isn't part of your blurb and everything else. Whereas with your nonfic, you can kind of get away with it a little more easily because it's more descriptive. But either way, I mean, give it a try and see what happens. In this case, we're going to go here, and again, we're doing keyword targeting. We're going to go click on Enter List, and I'm just going to copy paste because I've already got all of this. We're going to get rid of broad and exact, because we only want to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go with a custom bid. I'm going to throw this at 40 cents this time around. We're going to click Add Keywords. And here we go. And again, you can see that in some cases, some of the price range here, the 40 cents might be a little low. Not too worried about it though, because I know this market pretty well. The thing you want to keep in mind is that you do need to know the market and how much variation there is for that. You know, for some markets, you're going to have to, you may have to spend higher than that. You know, I know this market pretty well, so I know what I can get away with. Now we're going to come down here and we have our custom text. And so in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and write something up. This is just learn how to create practical magical workings that get consistent results. Pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead with that and see how it works. I like to keep things pretty simple here. You know, I always try to, with something like this, when I'm able to come up with the custom copy, I like to keep it simple and consistent. Whether it's fiction or otherwise, you know, less is better. Being able to say what you want to say within a few words is better than taking too long with it. We're going to go ahead and click Launch Campaign. And no, you cannot do this custom text with international markets. You can do it with US markets. So this is something to be aware of when you're creating ads, because you want to be able to create ads, and you want to make sure that they are going to work. At the same time, you need to recognize what the differences are. Sometimes you don't have the choice of using custom text. Hopefully someday the international markets will allow that. However, on the other hand, the thing to keep in mind is that Amazon has vetted stuff pretty thoroughly. And it may be that they're like, well, the reason why we don't do that is because we know Americans don't mind it as much, whereas Europeans and people in other countries do. I don't know. You know, that's kind of one of those cases where you have to keep that in mind, you know, that there are very good reasons likely for why things are done a certain way. All right, that's it for this video. I just wanted to show you guys how this works, and also try out a new software in my case, because I am actually using a different video screen recording capturing thing, one in this case which allows me to show myself while I'm doing these videos. Thought I would give that a try. And thank you guys very much, and take care.